Texas farms just lost 100% of their workers overnight. Crops are rotting in the field, livestock is dying, immigration raids are collapsing American agriculture. Americans are about to learn what the actual cost of food really is.
I heard y'all farmers was mad that Trump doing you wrong. I see y'all making these videos. Some of y'all turning your flags upside down and you saying, nah, this what you get, farmers. I'm laughing. And then I heard some of you farmers are actually setting other black farms on fires because you jealous of black farmers because they had to get theirs out the mud, but you need some workers on your. I just find it funny. Who y'all thought was gonna come and work on them farms now? Come on now. Who y'all thought was gonna come and get those jobs? This is what y'all wanted because y'all wanted to vote for Trump blindly for absolutely no reason, and guess what? This is what you get. So now a lot of y'all businesses are going out of business. You farmers are crying. You're mad. And guess what? I find it very beautiful. I think it's a beautiful thing that you guys are getting finessed. It is hilarious to me. It is hilarious to me.
Hey guys, you know what? I was watching this video the other day, right? This is a farmer, you know what I'm saying? And he was saying how much cotton pickers cost and how it was too expensive, you know what I'm saying? And he don't even know if he can afford to rent one without his subsidy welfare, government welfare for white farmers. He don't know how he was even gonna get a cotton picker. I got the answer. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, it's free. Honey, you a free cotton picker. You free to pick your own cotton. You ain't got to pay yourself nothing until the cotton is picked and you sell it. Pick your own cotton. Lazy ass.
So it's come to my attention that the farmers who literally voted for Trump and voted for their own demise, who currently have crops sitting in their field that are rotting, and the farmers who are burning their own fields due to the crops rotting, they're thrown for a loop. And I guess they're thrown for a loop because they thought that once they got rid of the illegal immigrants, that black people were going to be out in the fields picking their fucking crops. Because they think that we don't have jobs, that I guess we sit around on our asses all day. And I think it's so crazy because they really don't understand that black people are very educated. They don't understand that a lot of us possess a college education, and that that we're qualified to do other jobs. They really think that we sit around taking advantage of the government all day.
I understood the assignment. Did the assigner of the assignment understood who they were assigning the assignment to? You have to ask the assigner on that one. Personally, I don't think they did any research.
Texas Mega, what y'all waiting on? Y'all jobs is waiting on y'all. I need y'all to get y'all ass out there and get to picking our vegetables. Because you're so quick to say this is what I voted for. Well, if you voted to have the people who do this job, because y'all too lazy to do it, if you voted to have them removed, and you stated, you're so quick to state, oh, they're taking the jobs. Well, there they go. Get out there and get the goddamn picking. And you know what? What's even great about it is the faster you work, the more buckets you fill, the more you get paid. So get out there. What you waiting on? This is what you voted for.
Y'all were so pressed that immigrants were taking your jobs and yada, yada, yada. Well, let's see. Now in Texas, a lot of farms are hurting because they don't have employees. So why aren't you applying to those jobs? The jobs that the immigrants were taking from you. Quickly. Yeah, and that's what I thought. I want to hear your excuses or your comebacks. Because there is no line forming outside of these farms where y'all were so desperate to get a job.
It's not just about the Texas farmers regretting their votes and what everything is coming up. Let's hear what people have to say about the voting of the new government, especially the Texas farmers.
When was the last time that Texas elected a Democrat governor? 1991. That's over 3 decades ago, 35 years, and her name was Ann Richards. And guess what? Republicans have been blaming Democrats all those years, yet it's been the Republicans in charge of Texas for 35 years. In 2026, we have a chance to elect a new governor like Bobby Cole. The few things I like about him: he's a retired firefighter, he's a Texas farmer, he wants to reform property taxes, and he advocates for inadequate funding of Texas public schools. He's about fixing the state's electricity and the grid. He's about protecting Medicare and rural health care. He's definitely not a career politician. And how in the world does Abbott, Cruz, Patrick, and Paxton win in Texas when nobody likes these guys? Gerrymandering, that's why. I digress. Anyway, do a compare contrast between these two. Abbott is bought and paid for by the big oil companies and executives. Enough is enough. Let's get Bobby Cole in there for 2026. Big donors don't equal big support. Truth has no party. Be well.
Hear me out. Walk with me. I keep getting ads on my, social media, whatever, about You Pick Farms. I find it to be particularly interesting because is it You Pick now because you guys don't have workers anymore? And it's going to rot in the fields otherwise? When I think of picking my own food, I think of picking my own food in my garden, not somebody else's garden or farm. And I say that respectfully because I do enjoy pumpkin patch and strawberry picking, but that's not in 110-degree weather. So having a You Pick farm right now, and I'm in North Carolina, it's a lot. It's a very, very big ask to say, hey. And it's funny because the commercials are really cute and fun, but it's just like, it's 125 degrees outside and humidity's at 75%. Anyways, this is the new business plan for farmers. Farming 2.0 is like, okay, we're gonna have people pay to come pick. And might not be a bad thing if the price would be less than it would be going to the store. But then you have to think about people who aren't able to pick and who can't go to the farm or get to the farm because there's no access. America.
If you're paying attention to agriculture in the news cycle, you might have noticed the efforts to expand the H-2A Seasonal Foreign Guest Worker program, or even make it easier to access a program for non-seasonal work. What you might not realize is the chilling effect this would have on American farm workers. Republicans and even some Democrats are talking about freezing, cutting, and even possibly discontinuing the federal adverse effect wage rate. Now, the AEWR is a yearly survey of wages by each area that determines the next year's minimum amount of pay for H-2A workers in that specific place. Protection makes sure that H-2A workers are not undercutting American farm workers' wages. If you seem confused, don't worry. It's actually really, really simple. The AEWR might seem complicated at first, but it's actually very simple and extremely important for American farm workers. Why is it so important for us to fight this, you may ask? Well, because if growers and their political cronies get their way, not only would the H-2A workers' wages be frozen, but their lower salaries could be an unfair competition for domestic workers. Now, this would affect all farm workers' wages. It would be just wrong for Congress to give growers another corporate subsidy that decreases wages even lower for farm workers who harvest the food we see on our shelves every single day and risk their lives harvesting the food we need. Importing more vulnerable workers, getting rid of the protections that keep them safe, and at the same time lowering American workers' wages and job security is not the right thing to do. Now more than ever, it is crucial for you to vocalize your opinion. So make sure to say no to these provisions which will harm farm workers in the U.S.
And agriculture is the economic foundation for most of these rural Texas towns, so unless these workers are undisappeared immediately, these towns are going to collapse. The cultural reality is the security versus self-direction cultural conflict, and Americans are security obsessed, demanding immediate border controls and mass deportations without considering the consequences. And now they will pay the price, literally in the form of higher food prices. America has got to get back to its foundation of self-directed culture, in which states, localities, and individuals make their own decisions rather than being dictated by the federal government. Because the economic reality is that undocumented workers make up 50 to 70% of U.S. agricultural labor, because Americans won't do farm work, and even if they were willing to, farmers can't pay American wages and stay profitable. And we've seen this before. Operation Wetback in 1954 saw mass deportations and an agricultural crisis. The Barro Serra program, which ended in 1964, resulted in decades of farm labor shortages. Every immigration crackdown created high food prices because farms had no workers. So what's next? More farms shutting down, ever increasing food prices, and if Republicans don't reverse this, at a certain point, the U.S. is going to have to import food to feed its own people. Rural Texas voted for Trump. And Texas, you will reap what you sow. Join us for more economic political analysis at culturalperspective.com.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy.
I'm a supporter of President Donald Trump. Voted for him in this election and the last, and the one prior to that. However, President Trump is about to allow JBS, the world's most corrupt beef organization, to become publicly traded in America. President Donald Trump will be the president that allows for the complete destruction of the small, independent family farms and cattle ranches. If surprise, 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 he allows this to go through. The SEC has already approved it. Now we're just waiting a mere few days for them to allow it on the stock exchange. Surprise, 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 surprise. And what's concerning is we haven't heard a word from the Secretary of Agriculture about this. We haven't heard any of the large cattle organizations that represent cattlemen speak out about this. They claim to represent cattlemen. The truth is they only represent the big guys. They're bought and paid for by the same organizations, JBS, Cargill, Tyson, National Beef, all the collusion that's happening. Go do a very simple search and you'll see the millions and millions and tens upon millions of dollars that these companies have been ordered to pay for collusion and price fixing, which has cost us our family farms and ranches. And what that costs us as the people who aren't family farms and ranches is a stable food system. As much as I'm a supporter of many of the other things that Trump is doing, anything else in the world that we're working to accomplish and achieve doesn't matter when you have famine and you starve to death. So, Mr. President, I love you. I appreciate you. It is our job as citizens to hold you accountable. And whoever you've got in your circle, they ain't speaking truth because you're about to put us in a whole world of hurt. Folks, I need you to share this. This is urgent. We've only got a mere few days, and we need millions of people to put pressure to stop this, or it's going to be it'll be a much harder fight to come back from. Thanks, everybody.
There's zero strategy.
Friends have been doing research into this Bobby Cole person who we had never heard of before yesterday. Because, who is this man and who sent him? Where's the money coming from? We have questions. I'm referring to Bobby Cole as the Marlboro Man, and that is the intended look. They want this kind of rugged Texas look. I feel like, again, that it was trying to fulfill these stereotypical viewpoints people have of Texas. So, a friend last night was like, how is he funding this, and how big is this doggone rant?
Yes, ma'am. I've been asking those same questions ever since I saw those 5 videos from those they're not micro-influencers, they're big influencers. I knew then that he was not what he was pretending to be, because there is no way that you have a campaign allotment that is able to spend that much money on endorsements from influencers while also constituting that you are a small business farmer that has never ran for local or state politics. How do you have an allotment of campaign funds to do sort of thing? So I did my own research as well. So even though I knew that him being a small business farmer had to be factually impossible, I wanted to fact check that. So the United States Department of Agriculture constitutes small family farms as any farm that makes less than $350,000. Now, understanding that a small business farm constitutes as any farm that makes $350,000, and keeping in mind that this man has never ran for local or state office, how in the world would he have a campaign allotment that would be able to pay for all these endorsements? Keep that in mind, right? Now, if you go back to her original video, you will know that she stated that this man owns between 5.3 $1 million in property assets. Now, keeping all that in mind, the day that he was announced for governor on June 24th, a publication called On the Cuff talked about his farm. And they said the following. Now, Bobby's small business manages 300 head of cattle and raises more than 1 million chickens per year. Now, does that sound like a small business farm? If you are from Texas and you hear somebody has 300 heads of cattle and sells 1 million chickens a year, does that sound like a small business to you? Now, I asked Google, how much is 300 heads of cattle worth? And Google says the following. The value of 300 heads of cattle can vary significantly, but reasonable estimate is between 300,000 and 900,000. Now, I asked Google the same question according to chickens. And I asked them, how much is 1 million chickens worth? And it says in 2027, the average retail price of a pound of fresh whole chicken in the United States is $2.06. Therefore, 1 million pounds of whole chicken would be approximately over $2 million. Mind you, this is pounds of chicken, not whole chicken. I couldn't find statistics about how much a whole chicken would be, but if 1 pound of chicken is $2 million, imagine how many 1 million chickens are. And so I immediately had distrust in this guy because of the way that they're framing his narrative and why he was so appealing. Small business farmer. There's no way a small business farmer could be able to fund his own campaign the way that they are. So it was obvious that he wasn't a small business farmer. He had to be a very rich and wealthy farmer. And now knowing that he is a very well-off farmer, antennas should spark for all of us in Texas for a man who has a huge farm but wants to legalize marijuana. Does that sound like someone that's not going to line their pockets in the process of trying to be governor? Oh my gosh.
Howdy y'all, Clayton Tucker here. I am a Democrat running for Texas Agriculture Commissioner, and we got a really great question from Daniel. I'll post right up here about regenerative agriculture. Daniel, I'm really glad you asked. Let me talk about it real quick. But first, I gotta feed these animals. Here you go, Teddy. All right, so with that out of the way, let me tell you a little story. It's a family ranch, and I've been saying to my family, let's get into regen. I think there's something really to this. And after a few years, they shut me up. They're like, okay, here's some land. You can do what you want. So you get to see, remember, same family ranch. You get to see the traditional side, and you get to see my side and the differences between the two. Let's look at the traditional side first. So this is where the normal cows are. It is continually grazed, and you can see there's some plants, but the grasses, look how small they are. So yeah, it's green, but you can also see bare patches, and bare patches are not good. All right, so that was the continuously grazed plot of land. Now for my side, I have multi-species, so I introduced goats and donkeys along with our cattle. And I cut the field up into a bunch of paddocks, and I rotate them about every month or two, more or less. So let's take a quick look at one of my paddocks. All right, now I'm in the paddock they are my animals currently in, and just look at the difference, y'all. So you can see there's all these different types of grasses. You have this type, you have these, you have some forbs, you have all these different types of things. And here's something that's really important to note, is that however tall the plant is, like these grasses right here, they come up more or less to my knees. That's how far they go down. And the further the plants go down in their root system, the more water gets in. So you put more water in the soil, you put more nutrition into the soil, organic matter increases. And there's another really important thing about regenerative agriculture that I really like. And so let's go for a walk as I kind of tell you about this. So the prairies, these grassland prairies, hold more carbon than forests. If we lose the prairies, it will hurt the climate. It will dramatically increase climate change. And the prairies are the worst, the most endangered bioecosystem. So if we lose it, then a lot of carbon dioxide will be released. Destabilize the atmosphere even more, and we all know where that leads. But through regenerative agriculture And look, I've only been doing this for a year, and even I am seeing these huge differences. That even just a year, my grasses are better. We have, the soil seems better. I'm seeing more wild animals than I've ever seen. Like, I've been seeing more rabbits than I've ever seen. I've seen at least 3 rabbits a day, and they're all different, you know? I'm about to start naming them. I see them so often. So, regenerative agriculture, not only for me, has it dramatically reduced my cost, because then I'm no longer having to spend, money on diesel or equipment to maintain a field. I get the animals to maintain it for me. But I'm getting more grasses. I can start having more animals. I can start doing more. I can make my land more productive, which means I, as the rancher, make more money. And at the same time, literally in doing my part to slow climate change, to stabilize the climate, to make sure Texas has more water. So, Daniel, I am so glad you asked that question. I'm a huge fan of regenerative agriculture. We need to move to regen ag as much as we humanly can. I'm not saying everyone can do it all at once. That'd be a lot. We don't want to cause any sort of issues. We have to be smart about it. But the faster we go, so long as we're going safely, then I think that we will all be significantly better off. The farmers and ranchers will be better off. The climate will be better off. Literally everyone. Because most of traditional ag, after World War II, they, these companies needed to still use their chemicals for something. So they convinced people to start using them for fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and everything else, when farmers never really need to do this. So in one way, regenerative agriculture, as we can see, is just returning to how things were traditionally. If anything, we should call regenerative agriculture the traditionalist agriculture, because that's really what it is. It's just not relying on these fake synthetic industrial inputs that are bankrupting a lot of farmers, a lot of ranchers, and are killing our soil. So if you have any more questions about what I, as a Democratic agriculture commissioner for Texas, would do, or what I would fight for, please put them in the chat. Leave a comment. Let me know. I would, if there's anyone that I find particularly interesting, or if I get the same question a lot, I'll try to answer it. So just let me know. You can learn more at ClaytonTuckerTX.com, and love y'all.
Texas, but folks, these are alarm bells ringing for the entire United States, and our government is not listening. Overnight, multiple farms in the state of Texas completely shut down. And the reason for this shutdown was because they have lost almost 100% of their workforce. Now, we know this is the result of the immigration raids and stricter enforcement, but the ripple effect is going to be felt all the way across this country. Now, you've got crops that are rotting in the fields. You have livestock that is not being attended to at all. And that takes a lot of personnel. And we're talking, so now we're getting every area of food to include meat. And the communities that surround these farms, those businesses and those people who depend on the income from these farms, it's creating disasters for small communities in Texas. Now, this is not stopping at Texas farms. This is going to end up all the way across America, especially in the breadbasket, the middle of the nation, because they have tons of immigrant help. But folks, the alarm bells are ringing. Your food on your plate is being affected.